With the 10th overall pick in the 2024 NHL Draft, the New Jersey Devils are proud to select Anton Silayev from Russia. I think that was a bit of a surprise for the Devils discourse, but Silayev has a lot of potential, and we're going to hear from him later on. We have a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils, coming to you from the Sphere here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here on Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. Coming to you from the Sphere in Las Vegas, Nevada. Day one of the NHL Draft has concluded, and right behind me is the area where the NHL stars of tomorrow took center stage, where their lifelong dreams became reality. Hearing their names be called and finding out where they might call home in the near future. Going into the draft, we didn't know who was going to be the first overall selection. I'm joking. Everybody knew who it was going to be. Macklin Celebrini. However, after Celebrini was selected first overall, things got a little interesting. The Devils had the 10th overall pick, and like I said in my previous discussion with Mike Moriel of NHL.com, there was a lot of anticipation surrounding the 10th overall pick. Would the Devils hold on to it? Would they trade it away? Ultimately, they held on to it, and people were wondering, who were they going to select with the 10th overall pick? Was it going to be Beckett Seneca? Nope. Seneca surprisingly went third overall to the Anaheim Ducks. Was it going to be Sam Dickinson? Dickinson dropped a little further in the draft than people anticipated, and he went 11th to the San Jose Sharks. Zeev Bouillon, 12th overall to the Wild. Cole Yzerman, someone who I was rather fond of, he went 20th to the New York Islanders. Berkeley Catton, 8th overall to the Seattle Kraken. Catton was an interesting prospect because in my discussion with Moriel, he mentioned that Catton actually stayed with the Hughes family for about a week and a half, and he learned the ins and outs of being a pro, and I'm sure the Devils had their eyes on him as well. But lo and behold, the Devils decided to select Anton Silayev, who was ranked number 1 amongst international skaters. I think for the most part, people were happy with that selection. I'm sure some people wanted to see it be traded away in some sort of package, but it never came into fruition. But Silayev is definitely an interesting prospect, but it's going to take a few years before we actually see him suit up in a Devils sweater. In today's episode, I'm going to give you some background information on Silayev. Then in the second segment, I will actually play his media availability. And then in the third and final segment, I will tell you guys whether or not I thought it was a good pick for Devils and where do they go from here. Because going into the draft, I did not anticipate for the Devils to select a defenseman, mainly because they have a lot of highly touted defensemen in Luke Hughes, Shimon Nemitz, Seamus Casey, Santeri Hatakka. He sort of impressed down the stretch of the season, and I thought the Devils would go for more of a winger or maybe a center, but they decided to go with a left-handed defenseman. Courtesy of Daniel Amoya of the Hockey Writers, he actually put this out on X, and he said the KHL all-time points by draft year amongst defensemen, number 1, Anton Silayev, who appeared in 60 games. He had 3 goals, 8 assists for a grand total of 11 points. And this fact is courtesy of Mike Moriel. Silayev had the most points by an under 18 player in KHL history, topping Vladimir Tarasenko's 10 points. Tarasenko finished with 7 goals and 3 assists in 38 games while playing in Russia during the 2008-2009 season. So I think it's safe to say that Silayev definitely has some offensive capabilities. And here's a little bit of a snippet from Elite Prospects. Here's how they describe Silayev. Silayev is a giant defenseman with the skating ability to cover any area of the ice in the blink of an eye. His form is perfect, whether you look at his posture, the flexibility through his ankles, knees, and hips, or overall output. With the explosive skating stride comes a vast defensive range and willingness to activate into the play. I think he is the epitome of where the NHL is going because, as we all know, in this day and age, two-way defensemen are highly touted, more so for their offense than their defense. But I think Silayev can play both sides of the rink. He's not perfect, but he definitely is heading in that right direction. And here's how Kevin Weeks described him. So Silayev stands 6'7", but Weeks said that Silayev plays like he's 5'10" in terms of skating ability. And I spoke with Jim Behringer of Full Press Hockey, Joseph Stanislaw of Draft Pro Hockey, friend of the show, and also a few scouts in attendance. And here are some of the attributes for Silayev. Physical, great shot, great skater, and his potential is really high. The one thing that he needs to work on mainly is his hockey sense. I guess being more of aware of the play and just trying to get up to full speed. It's going to take some time before he actually participates in an NHL game, but I think the Devils are willing to be patient with him. Okay, I'm going to play his media availability momentarily, but before we continue, I am in the mecca of sports gambling here in Las Vegas, Nevada, Sin City. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So it's only right that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Visit FanDuel.com to look at the odds. And please remember to gamble responsibly. Okay, Anton Silayev spoke to the media shortly after being selected 10th overall by the Devils. He had a translator with him because he speaks very little English, but here's what he had to say when talking to the media. Check it out.
Я отнесся к ней спокойно и считаю, что это хорошее место для моего дальнейшего развития.
I was calm, and I think the team who drafted me is a good place to develop.
What do you know about New Jersey's players? What excites you most about joining the Devils?
Что ты знаешь о команде и об игроках?
Хорошая команда с хорошими амбициями. Знаю, что стоят перед командой высокие цели, Кубок Стэнли, и знаю, что город живет хоккеем.
Тренер. There is a good team, good players, lots of ambitions with the team. So we know that there is only high goals as a win to Stanley Cup.
And знаю, что еще хороший тренер там тоже, и я считаю, что это одна из важнейших моих позиций в развитии.
The most important thing in my development is a coach who is great over there.
How would you describe your game, your style of play, all those things, the scouting report?
Как опишешь себя? Свою игру, кто ты такой, как ты
говоришь? I hockey player two-way, and I like it. Victor Hedman and hockey science and good shots, good skate, and physical.
The Devils have a lot of young up-and-coming defensemen.
Много хороших молодых защитников приходит туда. Как ты туда попадешь? Такой размер где-то как ты?
Все приходит через работу.
Everything comes through with a hard work.
How do you use you're 6'7"? How do you use your length when you're out on the ice?
Ты такого большого размера, как ты используешь?
Как сказать, мои габариты. Мои габариты я использую.
My
My size
size.
and defense game in zone and stick on puck and
good reach.
Bit reach and
Is there a player he watches that's pretty tall that he looks at and goes, I can do what he does in the defensive zone?
То есть на высоких защитников смотришь и ты анализируешь, что ты можешь это делать тоже.
Who does he watch?
На кого смотришь?
Victor Hedman.
Victor Hedman.
Oh, Victor Hedman. Okay.
He said before. Yeah.
What was it like playing in the KHL as a 17-year-old, playing among pretty much pro players and being so young?
Как тебе 17-летний в КХЛ игрался?
Помогли партнеры, помог главный тренер, помогает моя семья в этом становлении как хоккеиста. И стараюсь расти каждым днем, чтобы становиться лучше.
Players around, my coach Igor Larionov helped me a lot. My family supported me a lot, and everyday hard work, which helps me to be better and better.
You mentioned that New Jersey has a good coach, Sheldon Keefe. Did you talk to him at all during the draft process? What makes him a good coach in your mind?
Ты сказал, что в команде хороший тренер, что сделает тебя там Джолтон Киф?
Хорошее мне сделает то, что правильные советы дают для того, чтобы я быстрее подготовился к началу.
I know that there will be right advices which will help me to proceed very well to be a National Hockey League player.
What are some of the goals you have this upcoming season from a playing standpoint, and what would you like to add to your game?
Какие цели стоят на предыдущий сезон и что ты будешь делать?
На следующий сезон?
Да. Предстоящий.
На следующий сезон предстоящая цель стать лидером команды, забрать пауэр большинство, меньшинство и становиться лидером команды.
So just to take as much as possible ice time, to play PK, PP, and to be leader of the team.
Are you coming to development camp?
В тренировочном лагере? Yes.
In terms of contract status, does anything change now that you got picked by New Jersey?
По окончанию контракта в России буду принимать решения совместно с клубом и уже принимать решения совместно с клубом.
So when the contract will be up, so with the team, we'll make a decision what I'm gonna do. In 2 years, his contract is up in KHL.
That's after 25-26.
Correct.
Yeah.
Good.
Here's the thing. Silayev has been compared to Victor Hedman, and we all know the career that Hedman has had while playing for the Lightning. He's won the Norris, he's won multiple Stanley Cups. So I think Silayev, growing up and idolizing Hedman, I think that's a good role model to look up to. And also, courtesy of NHL.com, here's how they describe Silayev. The Devils select one of the most unique prospects in this year's draft. Silayev is an outstanding skater for a player his size, which has earned him comparisons to Tampa Bay Lightning star Victor Hedman. His offensive upside at the NHL level is unknown, but his skating and physicality would make him the perfect complement to New Jersey's other young top-end defenseman prospects, Luke Hughes and Shimon Nemec. I mentioned Nemec and Hughes in the previous segment because I thought with all of the young defensemen that the Devils already have to the roster, I thought that they would lean towards more of an offensive player, but they decided to go with Silayev, and I'm not really going to complain about that. Now, do I like the pick? Well, I'll talk about that momentarily, but before we continue, let me tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Okay. People have been asking me on social media, was this a good pick for the Devils? And I'm going to say yes. I think this was a good pick for the Devils, despite me thinking that they would go in a different direction. And here's why. According to Ryan Novozinski of NJ.com, he put this out on social media and said, Just spoke to Anton's agent, who confirmed that the newest Devils pick has 2 years left on his KHL deal, but said he has no idea if there's a chance he could come to the States before that. We'll see. I'll have more on this later. If you recall, in the previous segment, Anton was asked if he was going to be at the Devils development camp, and he did say yes. And Novo clarified on social media and said, we will see what happens. Anyway, when think of it from a different perspective, as we all know, the goal for the Devils is to not rebuild. It's to get back to the playoffs. And similar to what Ryan said on social media, Silayev still has 2 years remaining on his KHL deal before he can come over and play in the States, meaning that it's going to take some time before we actually see him in a Devils sweater. And I think that kind of fits the timeline here because, as we all know, like I said throughout the course of the episode, you got Nemitz, you got Hughes, you got Casey. Hatakka also turned some heads amongst the Devils discourse. It's going to take some time for those guys to develop as well. So it kind of makes sense to get someone like Silayev, whose ceiling is very high. And like I said in segment 1, out of all international skaters, he was ranked number 1. I think the Devils got a steal in this pick. And who knows what happens to the Devils in 2 years? Will they be a consistent playoff team? Will they be inconsistent? Will they be just downright awful? God forbid. We'll see what happens. But if you have Silayev and he is developing the right way, then you can insert him into the lineup, and players like Hughes, Nemitz, Casey, whomever are already established. And I also need to add this to the mix as well. And I hate repeating myself because I'm sure you guys are tired of me talking about it, but John Marino, Yoda Siegenthaler, and Dougie Hamilton, they're not going anywhere for the time being. They are all here long term. However, rumors are circulating that Tom Fitzgerald is actively shopping John Marino before July 1st. We will see what happens with that matter. But for the time being, Marino is still on the roster for the Devils. And fun fact for you, if Silayev was added to the roster right now, he'd actually be the tallest player on the Devils roster because he stands 6'7". He is a tall defenseman, long reach, and that can definitely go a long way down the road. And I think he's going to develop in more ways than one. And if he just gets a better sense of the game and cleans that up with time, because that's naturally going to change. Once again, I think the Devils got a gem here with the 10th overall pick. And I want to tell you guys a funny story. I actually did run into Tom Fitzgerald at Caesar's Palace. I was coming from the Hell's Kitchen restaurant, and he was looking for the Nobu restaurant. And before he made his way over, I stopped him. He said hello to me. He's a very nice guy. And I asked him, I said, Fitzy, what's the plan tomorrow night? And he said, we're picking. And I said, can I please share that? And then he turned around and he sort of cracked his smile and said, I think we're picking. He changed up his words a little bit, but it's not my job to break news like that. So I just knew in the back of my mind that the Devils were not going to trade the 10th overall pick, but just wanted to share that story with you now that the first round is completed and the Devils got their draft pick. Silayev, not a player I had in mind, but given his attributes, given what sites are saying about him, and given his physical appearance, I think he's definitely going to do big things for the Devils, but you just got to be patient. It's going to take some time. I do like the pick, and I think it fits the timeline in terms of where the Devils are at, because you need to give the young defensemen currently on the roster some time to develop and find their footing in the NHL as well. And then with time, Silayev will slide into that role, and he'll try to find his footing in the NHL. But after that, Hughes, Nemitz, Casey, Hatakka, they're going to get more NHL experience under their belt, and they're going to take their games to the next level. And I think that really does do wonders for the Devils. Everything is an investment, even the draft. I always talk about and say that trades are investments, but prospects are also investments. So we'll see what happens down the road. But let me know what you think of Anton Silayev and where the Devils can go from here in his development. Or do you wish they traded away the pick, or do you wish that they drafted someone else? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X-Page app at TreyMatt4 or the show's X-Page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening. Once again, Trey Matthews signing out day one of the NHL Draft.